Welcome to Voice Rising with Kara Johnstad. Enjoy weekly conversations with leading luminaries, pioneering visionaries, singers, poets, musicians, and sound healers as we explore the profound role our voice plays on the path to self-realization and global enlightenment. The internationally acclaimed singer, composer, author, healer, recording artist, voice expert, creator of Voice Your Essence, and founder of the School of Voice, Kara Johnstad uses her extraordinary spiritual gifts to empower others. Everything in this world vibrates. Everything has a frequency. A pioneer in the field of voice work and transformational songwriting. Her breakthrough methods are helping thousands of people worldwide fine-tune their body-mind-spirit system and unlock the energetic frequencies of limitless creativity, health, and abundance. Share your voice, ask your questions, join in the conversation. Receive life-changing, positive transformation and rise together to create a sound world. And here's your host, Kara Johnstad.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Voice Rising. Today with me in studio is Eileen McKusick. And Eileen is a researcher, writer, inventor, practitioner, educator, and speaker on the effects of audible sound on the human body and Biofield. She is the originator of Biofield Tuning, the founder of the Biofield Tuning Institute, and author of the award-winning best-selling book, Tuning the Human Biofield, Healing with Vibrational Sound Therapy. She is also the inventor of the revolutionary and much-loved tool, the Sonic Slider. Eileen is a pioneer in the fields of therapeutic sound and electric health. Her work leads people from a chemical-mechanical perspective of life, health, and the universe to an electro-sonic one. Welcome, Eileen, to the show. It's so good to have you with me today.
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So share with us, people maybe get from the introduction a little bit about you, but the one word that does jump out is Biofield, sound and tuning the Biofield. How can you explain to our listeners what a Biofield is and why it has such a profound effect on our health?
Well, our biofield, the very simplest explanation of the biofield is that it is your electromagnetic body. And, we've been really conditioned to think of ourselves chemically and mechanically. And, like if something goes wrong, then you need a supplement or a drug or surgery. But what my research has really kind of shown me and brought me to the understanding of is that we're very electric. We're primarily electric. And most people kind of get the dots of this, but not necessarily the big picture, in that most people understand that their heart is electric. Like if your heart stops and there's, one of those paddles nearby, they're going to use electricity to jumpstart your heart again. You really do run on electric juice, and it's the same juice that comes out of our walls. It's all kind of one electricity. And it's a vital part of us. It is the part of us. So anything that has an electric current running through it, and it's really our entire system, our fascia, our collagen, all our cell membranes, our brain waves, everything in our body is electrical. And anything that has an electric charge running through it has a magnetic field around it. And so when we speak of the biofield, we're speaking about the electricity running through the body and the electromagnetic field that surrounds the body.
Beautiful. You have a line in the end of your book which talks about the mouth, which I found as a singer to be stunning, that you learn the most powerful thing in the universe is our mouth, and that we do not recognize how creative words are, and that our words create our lives. So do words also have an electrical charge? Can we see that as vibration and frequency? And why is it so important as sound healers? I mean, that makes us all sound healers, I would guess, because we all have a mouth, right?
Yeah, I think the line is that I've discovered that the most powerful thing in the universe is right under our noses, and it's our mouth. And and yeah, I think a lot of people, especially these days, think a lot about what goes in their mouth. A lot of people really want to be eating clean and really paying attention to the input. For me, for many years of really listening deeply to people's bodies and also to their voices, I've found that, yes, our voice is absolutely, can be an instrument of healing in ourselves if we are speaking coherent sounds of beauty. But if we are, if we're talking smack, that's a whole other way that patterns form in the system. And so the tone of our life, the tone of our words, it's very tonal. This is the way that I've really come to look at the body and the way that we say. Even in communication, they say that, 10% of what people respond to is our words, 20% is our body language, and a full 70% of what determines a person's response to us has to do with our tone. And many things are carried, in our tone, right? Did your mom ever say, don't use that tone with me?
Yeah.
So we definitely want to become conscious of the sounds that we make, how we sound, but the words that we speak and also the thoughts that we think. I would say absolutely. Sound is part of the electromagnetic spectrum. Sound is electromagnetic. And so our thoughts are attractive. Our words are either very attractive. You hear someone's voice and it's either very attractive, you're drawn towards it, or, it's repulsive. It doesn't sound good. It's got sharps or flats or tension in it, right? So we're constantly gauging people much more by their tonality and their tonal expression than the actual words. But I would say the actual words are also extremely important.
Right. I mean, you talked also about the desire for clean eating, but I think a lot of us are not aware that clean listening might be a key to good health. I mean, as far as what I mean by that is that the whole, if for example, someone's watching the news 24/7 and it's just playing in the background, they might be absorbing a lot of, a lot of disaster news, which then goes into their bodies, and they're not even aware of it. It's not,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think one of the best sounds that we can really avail ourselves to is nature. To be out in nature and quiet the mind and listen to birds, listen to running water. Nature has all of the codes for us to be vitally healthy. The information is around us because nature is healthy and nature is self-sustaining. And what, unfortunately, a lot of people have noise in the signal. Like you said, they have the news going or they have a lot of negative mental chatter. And it's something that I find a lot of people have this sort of running noise in their head that creates noise in their signal that starts to break down their health. So, yes, we absolutely want to have good inputs, garbage in, garbage out, beauty in, beauty out. We're mostly water, and water holds the vibrational information of whatever it comes in contact to. So if we're continually being exposed to bad vibes, we're going to feel bad vibes. If we expose ourselves to good vibes, we're going to feel good vibes.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people too, they don't seem to be aware that inside words are also sound bites. I mean, I'm not sure if you work with this also when we work with repatterning, but for example, in the word love, you have l and ah and v. Have you researched or have you looked into how all these tiny little sounds that create then our words, which then later create our belief patterns, influence us? Do they have a different influence on different parts of the body? Like energy would be n, j, e, 5 sounds in that one little word. Are there different places in the body where certain sounds reverberate?
Absolutely. And that's one of the fun things, about having a human body is that it's an instrument that you can really play with and you can resonate different sounds in different areas. The whole practice of chakra toning There's different sounds like ram and lam and things like that, and also different vowels, ooh and ah, that you can play around with resonating inside your body. And that's giving yourself sound therapy from the inside out, because you're streaming, coherent vibrations and resonance through your system, which helps bring your signaling in phase. It gets all your molecules vibrating together, which is, a state of health and wholeness, a sort of sense of inner unity. And sounding from the inside out is a wonderful way to experience that. It's so easy, it's so accessible, and it's free.
It's free. Isn't that amazing? So much of this work is so powerful, and it's, like you said, it's right under our nose. What drew you then to using the tuning forks, right? I mean, we can hum and we can do the vowels and we can sing and we can chant, but there's something magical also about these tuning forks that you've been using to tune the biofield. So what brought you to the tuning forks?
What brought me to the tuning forks was a quest to solve my own emotional, mental, and physical problems that I was struggling with. I had terrible boundaries. I gave my power away. That led to all kinds of pain and suffering in my being. I had an eating disorder, was addicted to sugar. I was really seeking self-healing, and I started that journey when I was 18 and really began diving into self-help books and human potential, science of spirituality, really taking a deep dive and reading many hundreds of books and realizing that I wanted to be, in the wellness field somehow. I considered becoming a naturopath, but I never liked school, and I didn't want to go to school for 12 years or whatever it was going to take to become a naturopath. So I just started off with massage therapy, just to kind of get my foot wet. Although I owned a restaurant, I was in the restaurant business, which is very stressful and certainly didn't help my health or my sugar addiction. But I ended up, for you, I'm sure, and many of your listeners, when you are a researcher, you tend to go down rabbit holes, and they lead to one subject and another and another. And so my sort of journey through my own little rabbit warren had led me to the idea that everything is vibration, and the idea of using sound and color and music in healing. And I amassed as many books as I could, and then I found a set of tuning forks in a Gaia catalog and ordered them and just started playing with them in my massage therapy practice. I only saw a few people a week. It was just sort of a hobby. And they were just intriguing right off the bat. They were very intriguing. And I thought, if you had a tuning fork that was the note of C and you activated it and you held it over someone, it was going to sound like a C. It was just going to be sort of a neutral tone. What I did not anticipate was that it actually was a conversation between the subtle emanations of the body and the overtones and undertones of the tuning fork. So depending on where I held it and what was going on in that person's body, it might go sharp or flat. The sound might disappear out of it entirely very quickly, or it might go loud and sustained, or sometimes it would feel like it was full of noise or static. So there was a whole language of interaction that was happening with the tuning fork. And, I remember in the beginning holding it over somebody's shoulder and they had pain. And when I held it right over the spot where they had pain, it went very sharp, and we both heard it. And he said, it feels like sharp pain. And I kept on activating it and holding it over the shoulder. And after just a short time, the overtones and undertones balanced out, and it didn't sound sharp anymore. It sounded resonant. It sounded like a C. And he noticed that all his pain went away. So observing things like that was just fascinating, and that is what kept me in. It's been 23 years now that I have been playing with forks, and it wasn't until about 2005 or 2006 that I became committed to it, because honestly, back in the 90s, and I was in Connecticut in the United States, and I told people I was doing sound healing and chakra balancing with tuning forks, it was really met with like a lot of hostile skepticism and really not the kind of image that I wanted. I didn't want to be sort of judged as some kind of new age flaky, healer. It's not who I am. I'm actually very practical and logical, extremely, sort of logic minded. And so, it wasn't appealing as a vocation for me. But then I stopped working directly over the body and sort of by accident started discovering things in the field around the body. And when I started working from up to 6 feet away from people and started exploring the sort of sonic terrain of the energy field around the human body, my therapeutic outcomes became really dramatic. And I realized that I was onto something, and I knew it was very, very strange, but I also realized that, wow, if healing could be this easy, just holding a fork 3 feet away from someone's hip for a few minutes, and then their pain goes away, then I kind of have an obligation to get this out into the world. And so I went to college as an adult and got a master's degree and wrote a master's thesis called Exploring the Effects of Audible Sound on the Human Body and its Biofield. And then that became the basis for my book, because I really, in order to solve the issue problem, I felt like it was really important to understand and describe what was going on from sort of a scientific and academic perspective. And so that is what the book is about. It's about exploring the science of this. Beautiful
and powerful. I do believe that you have an obligation or a responsibility when you find such amazing results. And the truth is that so many of us then can heal with such simple tools, right? So we're going to take a very small break, Eileen, and then we're going to be back very shortly and then dive into more talk on sound consciousness.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organisation, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millis's, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
With happy clients all over the world, Kara Johnstad knows that your voice is the missing link to more authenticity, abundance, creativity, and health. An internationally acclaimed voice expert, Kara's breakthrough methods have helped thousands of people successfully heal their voice wounds and extinguish the story of self-doubt and shyness forever. Join in group trainings, attend online sessions, schedule one-on-one time, and invite Kara to work with your organization and community. Get started today. Go to www.karajohnstad.com and receive a special guided meditation designed to fine-tune your inner voice and welcome you on the voice journey.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling on it.
The dad joke. Corny, groan-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
What did the buffalo say when he dropped his son off for school? Bye, son.
So take a moment to make your kid laugh, because dad jokes rule. Make your kid laugh today. Go to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hi, everybody. You're back at Voice Rising. I'm your host, Cara Johnstad, and in studio with me today is Eileen McKusick, and we are talking about healing through tuning forks and through sound and vibration. We just left off with you talking about the fascination that the further you got out from the body, well, I don't want to say the more you discover, that's maybe wrong, but you discovered that there's a huge electric-magnetic field around our body. Is that correct?
Yes, and actually ended up mapping sort of the anatomy and physiology of it. Mm-hmm. You know, through pattern recognition, it was almost like teaching myself Braille and discovering that there were different features and different patterns and different qualities of different zones around the field. And so in Biofield tuning, we work with what I call the Biofield anatomy map, which mm-hmm. shows these different zones and features in the field that we can encounter while working.
And is it did I understand it correctly that memories or perhaps trauma that is when we were young is further out? It's almost like we can think of ourselves as the rings of a tree trunk, that we have, that the closer we come to our body, the more present the pain or the blockage is?
Yeah, it's all our memories, good, bad, all the difficult ones, all the good ones. Like our memory bank. So in this model, the body is actually inside the mind. The biofield mm-hmm. extends around 5 or 6 feet out on either side and is bounded by an electromagnetic membrane that mm-hmm. creates an environment that creates standing waves. And the information appears to be encoded in these standing waves. So what we find at the very outer edge of the field is in that boundary zone, which is kind of like the Earth's magnetosphere or the sun's heliosphere, the idea that electromagnetic bodies have these bubbles around them with these membranes. Mm-hmm. And that is gestation. We come inside of that. That's birth. It's almost like dropping a needle on an album with a tuning fork where you can actually go through and read the record of a person's life. You read mm-hmm. the whole vibrational record that was laid down, the person's inputs, their inner experiences, stress, illnesses, sudden unexpected things are all present in these waves. And so we not only can read these waves, but we can also modulate them. Because what is amazing is that the human body is a self-tuning instrument. And when it is provided with the biofeedback of its own noise, they will use the input of a tuning fork that becomes like a metronome in order to tune itself. It will relax, it will become self-aware, it will adjust so that it starts to hear itself as more harmonious. Like I said, we have the codes within us for perfect harmony. And given the opportunity, it's almost like, looking in the mirror and discovering you have spinach in your teeth. Without the mirror, you didn't know it was there wasn't anything you could do about it. But the tuning fork in, for example, the story of a traumatic birth, reflecting mm-hmm. the dissonance that's there, when the body hears that reflection, it adjusts itself. It's like you got a little mm-hmm. person on a mixing board inside, moving slides and dials. Or even tuning an instrument. If you've ever, certainly you as a musician, if mm-hmm. somebody has an instrument that's in tune and yours is out of tune, you're like, give me an E, let me listen to that a few times, and then I'm going to get my own instrument in tune. Well, that's what the body does. Yeah.
The resonance that happens. Do you have the experience? Are there certain tones, like tuning fork in C, D, E, F, F sharp, E flat, that are there for certain parts of the body? Or in general, if you hear a clear tone with a clear overtone, does the body then, or undertone, does the body then start to adjust? Because we are music. The tones are everywhere, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well, my first set of tuning forks, I was working with the Western musical scale. It was C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Mm-hmm. And then I got a set of solfeggio forks, which actually had like much clearer, brighter, more crystalline, more pleasing tones. And the C scale started to feel sort of dumb and muddy to me. And so I actually stopped using the C major scale and just kept using the solfeggio forks. And so, you know, and historically, while I am a singer, I have not. I'm only just now learning to play the guitar at 51. And
Nice.
so, you know, I don't tend to think in terms of, you know, F sharp, B flat. You know, that language hasn't really been part of my experience in exploring the tonal landscape of the body. It's more to do really with the timbre and the nuances that you hear. For example, if you get into an area where somebody was rear-ended in a car accident, the fork will go very sharp and very, you know, you can hear it. We call that the sound of alarm. If you are in a memory that was really sad, it actually sounds sad. Like it sounds like sad music sounds sad. And there's many different iterations of sadness. There's like loneliness and melancholy and keening and deep grief. Like there's many nuances of sadness. There's different nuances of anger. You know, there's rage. There's sort of simmering anger. So every emotion that we feel expresses a particular tone that can be heard in the overtones and undertones of the fork. The language that practitioners learn over time. You know, there's certain ones like fear has a pulsing quality. It makes you think of the Jaws soundtrack. You know, when you're in an area of fear, you hear this kind of thing going on. So over, you know, for me, over many years of just listening, this language and this anatomy just kind of revealed itself to me. And I watch my practitioners, you know, anybody who's been doing it for a year or more, really starts to tune into the subtleties of this language. Anybody can learn it, you know, people do.
And you also give courses, I believe. You also do trainings. You train people to listen in to what the tuning forks are saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or what the stories, I guess. I'm sorry, I was going to say, or not the tuning forks, but what the tuning forks are picking up on, what the stories of our bodies are communicating, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We've trained, at this point, we have thousands of students and hundreds of certified practitioners worldwide. I have a team of 18 teachers that travel all over and teach small hands-on classes. I myself, at this point, just teach the advanced modules. You know, I taught for 10 years, and you know, you get to a certain point where you just can't keep saying, no, hold the tuning fork this way and not that way. But I have a wonderful, wonderful team of teachers, and people pick it up surprisingly easily. Not everybody, you know, gets to the point where they really hear and understand the stories. Certainly people do in time, but initially it isn't necessary to understand what you're encountering. You know, you're able to do the work because you don't even have to know how to tune a guitar to know when you hear somebody playing an out-of-tune guitar. Right? You might not know how to tune it, but you can tell when something's out of tune. And so, you know, new practitioners can hear and sense where there's dissonance, and they don't have to do anything except stay there until it resolves. You know, because the tuning fork in the person's body solves the problem. So I tell people, you know, I'm just training you to be a technician, to notice where there's dissonance and notice when it's resolved. And then in time, the knowing develops.
Yeah. You said before that you are a singer, and I was just, I mean, I'm fascinated, of course, for everybody who loves to sing. And what is your take? We all come to the earth with a very big open voice. I mean, we sing and we make sounds before we can really sit up and hold up our head by ourselves. We're communicating through voice, through sound, creating that sound body. And yet so many adults especially are ashamed of their voice and are really shy to express fully who they are vibrationally. What was your journey going through the voice journey? Did you have that moment too where you felt like you held back, and when did you start to then go more into singing?
So I've actually had an excruciatingly difficult journey with my voice, and having come out the other side of it, I'm reflecting on how ridiculous is it that the ability to use our voice freely, to be a human instrument and to enjoy the freedom to play and have fun with our human instrument has been taken away from so many of us. And it took me a 30-year Herculean journey to reclaim that freedom in myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, it started, I was not musical as a kid. I think that I had a lot of, not severe trauma, but I had kind of unrelenting low-level trauma as the youngest of 6 children. Mm-hmm. And was one of those kids that was tickled and picked on and Indian rope burns and kind of always being sort of poked and prodded. I was 2 months old on Christmas Day when my older siblings stuck a pin in me to make me scream to make my parents wake up. So that whole experience ended up creating a tremendous amount of tension in my body and some other traumas as well. And so when I was a kid in music classes in elementary school, I know I was always clapping on the offbeat and singing off key and squeaking my clarinet. Like, it was hopelessly non-musical. And then back in the day when Walkmans came out, you know, I remember sitting on a bus, like, singing with my Walkman on, and people being like, shut up. So I think a lot of people, you know, have had that kind of not good input and being told, you know, that you sound terrible and whatever. But when I was 20, I received very clear inner guidance that I needed to learn how to sing. And it reminds me kind of the Harry Potter movie, if anybody's read the book or seen the movie, when Harry gets the letter to go to Hogwarts. You know, they try not to give it to him, and then these letters just keep streaming in the house. That was kind of the guidance that I got. It was very clear. Yeah. It was very insistent. It was very, like, nudging me out the door and saying, you're going to go take voice lessons. And so I took my first voice lesson when I was 20, and the teacher kept playing middle C and asking me to go la, and I felt like I was being strangled. I felt like I had hands around my throat. My palms started sweating. My knees started knocking. I finally, after 15 minutes, like, choked out some horrible sound and then burst into tears. And I was like, oh my God, like, wow, what is wrong with me? So anyway, long story short, I had 7 voice teachers over the course of 7 years between the ages of 20 and 27. And the first 5 told me I was tone deaf. They're like, you don't hear, you know, you're just tone deaf, and you're never going to be able to sing because you have this physical handicap. And I refuse to believe that. You know, there's this African proverb that says, if you can talk, you can sing, and if you can walk, you can dance. And I really believe that it is the birthright of every human, you know, to be able to do that. That's what you see in cultures all over the world, is that what do all the humans do? They sing and dance together. And it's such an important part of health and well-being and community and all of that. And, you know, I was determined to reclaim it. What ended up happening was I started doing yoga, and I also started receiving body work. I got ROLFed, structural integration, a very aggressive form of body work that really works very deeply to release fascia. And what I discovered through the course of receiving body work, that my kidneys, and they say in Chinese medicine, your kidneys open to your ears, that my kidneys had actually tucked themselves up under my ribs from being tickled so much, and that my kidneys were actually compressed. Yeah. And so as my body started to relax, my kidneys started to relax, I started to be able to hear. And then I started to be able to replicate. And so with my 6th teacher, I actually made a lot of headway. And by the time I got to my 7th teacher, she was like, you can sing and hear fine, right? Yeah. So I ended up having a little band. And the person who's now my husband was in that band, and we started making music, and I was like, wow, this is what I'm doing, you know, like, I've got this band and we're making music, and this is absolutely what I want to be doing. And then I got pregnant, and I got very, very sick when I was pregnant, and it all just went away. And it wasn't, and then I got involved with the tuning forks, and really have spent the last 23 years, you know, being a mom and kind of growing this whole tuning fork enterprise, and finally reached this juncture where I'm circling back around to voice and, you know, coming back to exploring what can be done with voice. I mean, the tuning forks are a great tool, but really the human voice is far more powerful, far more versatile. And, something that I'm really observing at all these different things that I've been at, I've spoken at a lot of conferences and stuff, and it just seems to me like everybody wants to sing. But they're coming up against that same wall, that I have. There's even been another part of it because, there was this incredible terror around the vulnerability of actually singing and being heard. And that's something I've only been working at over the last year. I can speak in front of thousands of people, not nervous at all. But there's a tremendous vulnerability in standing in front of other people and singing, Most people say that they would rather die than speak in public, but, I think most people would rather die than sing in public. That's the really scary stuff. And, and that's what, and I think that we need not to sing, not to perform, but to sing with others. I think that people are craving that. And as I have finally this year kind of stepped past that terror, I've been liberated into the fun and the playfulness of it, the joy of using your voice as an instrument. The energy is delight and the experience of that. And so everybody's missing out on that, that incredible, and it's so healing. It's been proven over and over again through numerous studies that doing music together, singing in groups, makes people feel better. Drumming is better than Prozac for depression, right? I think we all have this very human need and urge to participate with our bodies and each other in this way. That's a need that's not getting fed. And it's buried under all kinds of layers of stuff for people.
Yeah, exactly. Eileen, let's take a very small break. It's a perfect place to really reflect on if we are daring enough to jump into that full voice that we've been given as a birthright.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hi, this is David Strickle. I'm excited to share my brand new show, The Stream of David Live, right here on OMTimes Radio. Each week I'll have exciting guests and I'll channel the eternal wisdom of the stream, a group of non-physical entities whose teachings have transformed lives all over the world. So join us for an uplifting hour each Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern. That's The Stream of David Live right here on OMTimes Radio.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
Hi, you're back at Voice Rising. My name is Cara Johnstad, and I'm in studio with Eileen McKusick, and we are talking about sound and singing and healing. And we're talking a little bit about singing, and I think, you make such a beautiful point, Eileen, about your own journey of coming back to your own full voice and the joy. And I just wanted to add also from my experience that it's very, very, very rare that anybody is tone deaf. So for all of those people out there that want to explore their voice, that's the one thing. And the second thing that you talk about, then going into yoga a little bit, I think a lot of singing teachers also, if they're just only asking people to sing tones, don't realize that it might be the tension in the neck or the shoulders or the tongue or the back that is keeping those tones stuck. And if we explore, you were talking earlier in the show about being in the nature, if we explore just making bird sounds and cat meows and things very natural, our voice naturally will come back and be free. I think it's something that people play too little with in voice classes. Just a little meow and hoo-hoo can do a lot with freeing up the voice. Yeah.
Absolutely. Play, and we tend to make it too serious. I will say that for me, a big part of it was not being fully embodied, especially in my belly, my pelvic floor, in my belly, in the area around my navel, in my diaphragm, in my psoas. All of those muscles really play a key role in expressing yourself. And
yes.
if you're kind of just trapped in your head, which I was, and not really present in your body, then you're missing the whole, your body is your instrument and your voice is modulated through how you move your diaphragm and your belly and all of that. So if you are, if you have so much fear around being in your body that you live only in your head, you're missing the whole point of singing in my experience. It's really about it being a full body instrument.
And I guess my experience coaching so many people out there is also that the throat has so many different functions, and it's also there to take in information that is going to protect us. So the throat is also, we feel sometimes guilty if our voice is not working correctly. We feel almost a sense of shame that we lost our voice or that we're out of tune. But actually, the throat does sometimes shut down if we haven't been able to process certain things. And that's a great, through playfulness and through self-love and through acceptance, and also through just matching tones playfully, like we would match colors or we would match shapes, for example. Most people don't play with tones. They don't go ba, da, or, they're not playing. It's like you would with colors. You'd say, what's yellow? What's yellow? Look what's yellow. Find something that's yellow. And so, when it doesn't work quickly, we feel a little bit nervous, right? But it's a normal thing to be playful and also to explore it. And yeah, exactly. So you have a great line in your book which says that tuning forks are a natural way to reach beyond belief systems, which I love because, with the voice, it's also, there's a lot of layers. It has the layer of emotions and thoughts and belief systems, affirmations and prayers. But the tuning forks, they're simply vibrating. They reach beyond belief systems. Why is this so important to our healing?
Well, the tuning forks really reveal what is there. They don't lie. You can't lie down on my table and lie to me, because the tuning forks are going to show me what is going on in your mind, in your body. They just reveal the truth of whatever tone is there. Most of us have been programmed with a lot of beliefs that aren't true. And when we form a strong belief, it creates like a lens in our field. Kind of like the way eye doctors flip lenses, in front of you, and you have to be like, oh yeah, that one makes it clear, less clear. If you have a belief, for example, that you can't ever find, that you're always losing things, and you're running around your home looking for your car keys, they might be right in front of you in your blind spot. But if you have a belief that you're always losing things, you're moving in a kind of quantum wave collapse of that kind of reality. And it's literally affecting how you're seeing, because something can be right there. But if your belief is so strong, you're not going to see it. And a big part of what we work with is ferreting out beliefs like this. So just an example would be if you were a baby boomer and you were born via, mom was knocked out and you were pulled out with forceps, and then you were bottle-fed formula on a schedule and left to cry it out. You're going to form a belief that it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter if I speak up for my needs. I'm hungry. I want to be held. they're not going to be met anyway. And so coming back to the tone thing, your voice is going to carry the tone of that belief when you're trying to have somebody hear and understand your needs. And they're going to hear that tone and they're just going to gloss right over you. They're going to play right into your belief system because you're setting that up tonally. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, and I think it's so important because there are so many people that tell me, does your voice reflect who you are? And I always say yes and no, because there are a lot of brilliant people in this world, and their voice is actually not reflecting, how can I say that? The thing is that we have a lot of greatness, and there are a lot of things that are working for us, and a lot of times because the voice, actually what you're saying is holds these certain filtered belief systems, which it does, and there might be certain changes in the tone that we're not even aware that our coherent thought is not arriving correctly in those ears, not only because the person might not be listening, but because we have something in our tone that is like a filter that's going out. Did I understand that correctly? Yeah, and I think it's really amazing because when I work with opening the sound and the voices, a lot of times what happens is that once you hear your original full, harmonically beautiful full sound, everything then just realigns itself naturally. You come back into a natural alignment.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, and
that's one of the
phenomenal.
things that's going on, in the throat chakra too. I find so many women, especially suffering from low thyroid. Actually, thyroid medication is the number one prescribed medication in the United States. And this has an awful lot to do with how we're using our voices. Are we speaking truth from a centered and embodied place? Are we sending energy directly out our throat chakra, or is it pooling up on the left side? Is energy getting stuck there because we're not speaking our truth? We're not expressing our emotions. We're not belching freely or whatever form of expression the body wants to do. And or it can pile up on the right side where we're speaking but not being heard. And so if we're engaging in either one of these imbalances, it is going to lower the amount of energy going through the thyroid, going through the throat chakra. And I really found, I made a commitment a number of years ago to speak only truth. And that isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do because, a lot of times I found in the beginning I was kind of prone to, those little white lies where somebody wants you to do something and you don't want to, and you're like, something came up, that sort of thing. And to really, really hold myself to only speaking truth, and that doesn't mean being a jerk. Sometimes when we talk about the importance of speaking your truth, people immediately go to confrontation or, difficulty. But we can speak truth in a very yin, kind, respectful, present way that doesn't necessarily need to lead to conflict. And, that's something that a lot of people really, really struggle with. And I think that that's also part of the vulnerability in the voice in singing, is really coming from that true place within you that is really hard to do. We have a lot of judgment and self-worth issues, all kinds of things that get in the way of us just being really real about what our truth is.
Well, in singing too, when you go more into the bigger ranges, your larynx starts to tilt, and so it is not as stable as when we speak. So we are flowing and balancing, and then what I always tell people too, this is a little bit maybe too in-depth for a show like this, but with all these, people think that we breathe in and then we sing, but every sound that we make has a different breathing pattern. Like, for example, S, the folds are wide open and a lot of air is streaming out, whereas T or D, there's almost zero air going out. And so, to find that balance, right? It is pretty phenomenal. It's it's a great gift actually. And I think, what is your experience? For me, my experience is that when people go into their singing voice, of course they have a larger range of frequency and vibration available to feed their body with.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that comes back again to just talking what we were saying at the beginning about your voice as an instrument of healing for yourself from the inside out. And so the more you express different kinds of sounds, the more you're massaging or stimulating or activating different parts of you. And it also just makes people more interesting to listen to. You know, we can only take so much of a monotone before we have to turn something off. Whereas when, you know, I've been listening, I'm here in Jamaica, and I've been listening to a lot of Bob Marley. It's really going very, very deep into Bob Marley, in trying to understand what is it about his voice that has such a universal appeal. And I feel like part of what it is that it's so rich and so deep and so expressive in all these different ways, you know, from growls to shrieks to there's really such a full spectrum of sound in there. And that's what's pleasing to listen to, you know. So it's something that we want to make our own voice in our own body interesting to ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. And he also has such enlightening lyrics and texts, right, which I think gives power also to his voice. You do have a phrase that I love from the book, which is called purple washing, or I think it was from the book. I'm not sure. But going back to talking about truth, you know, just the idea of not to override, that every single emotion and every single feeling has worth. And it's okay to say, we're tired, we can't go to the movies tonight. Or, you know what, I'm a little bit pissed off and I need a break now, or and not to purple wash, as you say, which I kind of smiled at, not to, you know, put a spiritual filter over it and feel guilty for being a little bit maybe more direct or more laser like. Are you there? Okay, we're waiting for Eileen McKusick to come back on air.
Thanks.
Eileen is there. You go.
I'm back.
Yeah,
I'm back.
Yeah, I was just
that.
talking really quickly. No, it's all right. I was just talking really quickly because you were talking about truth, and you have a phrase in your, I believe it's in your book. If not, it's in an interview that I watched called purple washing, and I thought it was fabulous. And this idea of not to override or put nice little filters. You know, if we go back to the throat chakra and the thyroid, and speaking our truth, just say it's okay to say, you know what, I'm having I'm late because I was tired and I took a nap and I needed that, and I know you waited, and you know I've you know it's not great that you waited, but the truth is I needed to sleep, right? So not to make it prettier or not to make those little white lies. I like that phrase that you said, purple washing. That was yours.
Purple washing.
You invented it.
Right. Purple washing is kind of like greenwashing. You know, like I remember seeing British Petroleum created a new logo that was a green sunflower. It's this petroleum company with this green sunflower. I'm like, so that's greenwashing. And purple washing is it's a similar kind of thing. It's a tendency of like nice or spiritual people, you know, to say that they're fine when they're not fine. And, you know, to kind of push aside frustration and sort of deny their own emotions, especially in the interest of like raising their vibration, you know, like, well, I don't want to feel any of the bad feels, you know, because I'm trying to have a high vibe here. You know, instead of acknowledging that you're having an emotional reaction to something and that emotions serve a purpose. You know, if somebody transgresses a boundary, we get angry, and that's a valid response. Be like, hey man, you know, don't do that. That's not cool. Yeah. It's important that we honor our emotions, because they kind of let us know. I think about the zip strips on the highway and how, you know, when you start going into the rough, it's like, you have some kind of emotion come up. It tells you, wait, we're going into something that isn't healthy here. It's not good. Like, pay attention. How can I respond to that cue to correct my course, you know, so that I'm moving away from pain, or I'm solving a difficult problem instead of denying it while allowing myself to continue to sit in it. So that's purple washing. It's not helpful, you know, it makes us sick.
Exactly. It makes us sick. And I think we also have to realize, if we think like musicians and the sound healers that we are, if you just look at a symphony, we have really low timpanis, and we also have really high piccolos and everything in between. And it's all part of the the beauty of our instrument. There's nothing wrong with, having a low growl at times and also having a high shriek of joy, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Where can people get more information about how to work with you and how to get your books and is it EileenMcKusick.com? Is that your homepage?
Yep, that's one. But the one that I usually send people to is biofieldtuning.com. So it's BIOFIELD tuning TUNING.com. And you can learn about classes, about some of the tuning forks we have. One of the things that's on there that people might find helpful is that I have a whole archive of virtual Biofield tuning sessions. Audio recordings that you can listen to that are me conducting sessions that, when people listen to, they claim that they receive the adjustment and experience a state change. So it's a pretty inexpensive, accessible way to experience the work. We also have practitioners all over the world, and, there's a find a practitioner place there if somebody wants to try a session. I just made a decision. Yeah, so that's a good place to start.
Fantastic, Eileen. It was great to have you on the show today. Warm greetings from Berlin to Jamaica, and I hope to have you back again.
Yeah, nice. Thank you so much for having me. Sounds like there's a lot we can still keep talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too. Bye now.